What do you guys think of when I say the name Elizabeth Hill Brodigan? I'll tell you one thing that you probably don't think of. You probably don't think, hey, that's a elementary school principal, and her and a third grade teacher threw a party with a bunch of kids where they got drunk, where the cops had to come out, where a EMT had to come out because one of the kids was experiencing alcohol sickness on the principal's front yard. And check this out, because the principal freaked out when the medical people got there to help the kid that was, basically dying in the front yard, not dying, but he felt really sick, obviously. They ended up turning off the lights at the front house. Is this crazy? By the way, these kids that were there at the party, there was about 100 of them, and they were all described as underage minors. Now, could you imagine a principal and a third grade teacher actually partying with young kids? Is that crazy or what? I swear, guys, when I was a kid, our teachers weren't cool at all. They were stiffs, but at least they taught the class, and you didn't have to worry about them doing goofy stuff with the kids. It's really weird because I'm torn, because I'm sure that when I was younger, I probably would have loved teachers and principals like this. But at the same time, it makes you wonder, how the heck do these people get these roles and these positions? It's loco. By the way, a friend sent me this Phoenix Suns cap, and it reminds me that when I was growing up, this Phoenix Suns team was the most important thing in my life. I absolutely loved the Suns. The reason I don't talk about the Suns too much is because through the years they've been more of a disappointment than a team I've actually enjoyed. So they're actually kind of a sore subject in my life. But I will forever be a Phoenix Suns fan. So to my buddy that got me this, I am very thankful. A lot of times we can only count our friends on one hand, but if somebody ever sends you something and you weren't expecting it, it always brings a smile to my face. And if you've ever experienced that too, let me know down below. That's just a great feeling whenever that happens. But anyway, Elizabeth Hill Brodigan, I'm very disappointed in you. In case you guys are wondering, there was a 45-year-old third grade teacher there that was so drunk that when the cops got there and started asking questions, she started getting defensive like a lot of alcoholics do, or at least people that are drunk. I don't know if she's an actual alcoholic, but she was wasted that night. She was a 45-year-old. Her name is Carly Anderson. Is this just the craziest thing ever? Yeah, but it gets crazier. Would you believe it if I told you that this party with alcohol and a bunch of minors also had marijuana? And get this, this is where you're gonna fall off your chair. Get this, it was also done on a Sunday night. And when the paramedics came to help the kid in the front yard that was experiencing alcohol poisoning, you're not gonna believe it, but it was 11:45 a.m. So we're talking, it was practically Monday, school day Monday. Oh, actually, here's what's amazing. I'm a recruiter. One of my teachers had to put in their timesheet, and we caught that on Monday they gave themselves credit for working 8 hours, but Monday the 20th was actually MLK Day. There was no class, there was no class, there was no school. So even though this did happen on a Sunday the 19th, we know that Monday the 20th was MLK Day. So technically the show was wrong and it wasn't a school night. But that doesn't make it any better. I don't know, Jesse, that makes it much better. No, it doesn't, Bob. Yes, it does, Jesse. I mean, it's not a school night. That makes it cool. She was a cool mom. She wasn't a cool mom. She's an embarrassment. If that was my mother, I would be embarrassed. Actually, that depends. Again, when I was in high school, kids would beg their parents to leave out of town so they could have parties. And every now and then, their parents would actually listen to them and knowingly leave for the weekend, knowing that their kids were going to throw parties at their house. So I know we can easily point to these teachers and say, bad, bad teacher, bad principal. But don't you guys agree? I think some of our parents might have done that back in the day as well. Mine didn't. Mine weren't that cool. But at the same time, knowing what I know now, I no longer consider that stuff to be that cool. God, it's freezing today, by the way. Holy moly, it's cold. This happened in Cocoa Beach, Florida, by the way. The name of the school is the Roosevelt Elementary School, just in case you guys want to look it up. What was really odd is that apparently when the authorities got there, the detectives noted that a lot of the kids were wearing matching t-shirts. Now, I don't know if that's like one of Diddy's white parties or what, but I could see them all getting together and saying, hey, everybody wear a black t-shirt or a white t-shirt. That way we know that you're quote unquote cool to attend the party. If you guys think that the t-shirts matching might have had something to do with who was let in and out of that party, let me know your thoughts down below. By the way, do any of you guys have any scandalous stories that were involving your teachers or professors or principals growing up? Because if you did, I would love to hear about those. I find those stories fascinating. Every now and then I'll watch a video and it'll show teachers that actually go to school and they're getting arrested because they're actually drunk while they're teaching at school. And a lot of times they end up losing their career. What's crazy is that if you're really wasted, why not just call in sick? A lot of these teachers have sick time, and yeah, I know the principals don't like to let you take a day off because it's important that you're there. But don't you guys agree that if you're actually wasted and you're a teacher, just call in sick. Don't waste your whole career. And if you have a problem with drinking, where you're drinking every day and getting wasted, then you probably need to resign rather than get fired. I have a feeling if you get fired in that type of situation, it's probably darn near impossible to ever get a job in a school again. But if you could resign, get your life back under control, there's always a chance at a second go round. Do you guys know who Ashley Banfield is? She's on News Nation. I'm a real fan of News Nation. I think it's because Chris Cuomo works there. I really like Chris Cuomo. I really like Ashley Banfield. I really like Dan Abrams, right? These are like my favorite news people to watch. And Ashley was speaking with Jesse. I forget Jesse's last name. He's a lawyer. I like him too. He's one of the guys that fills in on News Nation. They were bringing up the fact that they believe these parties were actually a regular occurrence. Sometimes when we do bad stuff and we get away with it, it's actually a curse, right guys? Because what happens when you get away with cheating on your spouse, cheating on your taxes, cheating on people in business deals, what happens is it gets easier and easier to do. And so if this was a regular occurrence, then what happened is they probably just got used to being able to say, hey, I'm the principal, this is a third grade teacher here with us, we're just having some young kids have some fun at our house, there's no alcohol involved. But the reality is, if your goal is to go back and relive your glory days and some way, somehow be the cool person, you're probably going to end up failing. And I think that's what happened in this case. And by the way, maybe you ladies would know better than I do, but I think there is a certain percentage of women that want to be the cool mom, the cool parent, to the point where sometimes they end up getting in a lot of trouble for it. If you agree with me, let me know. If you think I'm crazy and it's just bad people being bad, then again, let me know. The thing I don't like about it is a lot of times people that have troubles with alcohol will tell you that they started drinking when they were kids. So when you're a principal or a third grade teacher and you're watching as 13, 14, 18-year-old kids are getting drunk while they're in your presence, there's just something really dark and shady about that. By the way, in case you're wondering, they did say that there's absolutely zero allegations of like sexual misconduct or anything. So if there is a positive in this, it sounds to me like this was them trying to be cool and it just got way out of hand. It doesn't sound to me like they had some shady ulterior motive or agenda, you know, when it came to these kids. Because sometimes, let's be honest, sometimes nowadays there are these people that do weird, shady stuff with kids, you know. One of the things that Ashley Banfield and Jesse, he's a lawyer, you guys know who he is. I'll show a picture of him. I can't think of his last name. I know it's not Jesse Waters, it's Jesse something or another. But they were bringing up the idea that if this is them, if this is their parents wanting to sue this principal, then they can only pull so much money out of her. But if they end up going back through their investigation and they end up finding out that there's even one email that was fired off from a school email, or one text or phone call that happened while on school property, then that could pull in the school district. And all of a sudden, some of these parents could probably sue the school district itself for a boatload of money. And again, this happened in Cocoa Beach, Florida, so I don't know if maybe they have a Cocoa Beach school district. If you yourself are a Floridian, maybe you can weigh in and let us know. And by the way, if you have any comments, let me know down below. I find these stories fascinating. The other day we were talking about Mary Kay Letourneau. This is kind of akin to that, right? It's not the same exact thing, obviously, but I think there's something interesting about adults that try to go out of their way so that they're, I guess, popular in young people's eyes. You know, some of my early memories, and maybe some of you have these memories too, is that you'd be in a neighborhood going to a party, and then you know as well as I do, there'd be a million cars, right? In this quiet neighborhood, and all of a sudden there's all these cars, and you might even hear some music playing. You start to hear some loud voices, right, as people are drinking and stuff. And there's a piece of you that just says, golly, this is the best, right? I mean, there are moments when we're young and we experience these things where we just think this is the absolute coolest thing. Well, as we get older and we start to gain responsibilities and start to pay bills and taxes, a lot of times those days become ancient memories in our past or from our past, right? And I think what happens with people like the principal and like the third grade teacher is I think there's a piece of them that wants to relive that. Now imagine you relive it for 2 or 3 parties. There's no repercussions. It's all a bunch of kids. They're going to keep quiet, right? Until one day they don't keep it quiet, and all of a sudden the genie pops out of the bottle and you realize you're in a lot of trouble. And I think that basically describes this situation to a T. Now, for legality reasons, we want to obviously let everybody know that this is allegedly, but it doesn't get much more proof than you know, people talking about it and the police talking about it and shows talking about it. Usually when it looks like a duck, quacks like a duck, wobbles like a duck, it's probably a duck. Duck it. Gosh, duck it. I know some of you are thinking, my mom was the cool mom. I'm not going to tell anybody, but my mom was the cool mom. Well, you want to know something? If your mom was the cool mom, that means you probably weren't. And if you weren't, it's probably because you told yourself, I would never do that crazy stuff that my mom allowed us to do. So sometimes we learn from people's good examples, but I think it's possible to also learn from somebody that gives bad examples, right? For example, if you grew up and maybe your dad was the type to abuse your mom, I suppose you could grow up and follow in his footsteps. But I think there's also a good chance you could grow up and learn from his mistakes and not go down that path, right? Same with your brothers and sisters that are older than you that might have alcohol issues. In my case, I saw one of my uncles just throw his whole life away because of alcohol. So as I grew up, yes, I liked getting a buzz. Yes, I liked getting drunk. But I never liked the idea of just getting drunk every single day for months and years on end. And that was kind of because of what happened to my uncle. To see him drinking like crazy just didn't really seem appealing to me. By the way, that's my Uncle Jeff. My Uncle David is the one that I said had mental issues, but when he was on his medication, he was the nicest guy in the world. He was the type of guy that could take alcohol or leave it. And again, I think those are kind of some of the most even keel people, where they can say, hey, I'm capable of drinking, I'm capable of getting buzzed or drunk, but you're not going to see me doing this every single day. It's just for special occasions. That was the type of person my Uncle Dave was, very down to earth, other than his crazy, nutty head. Crazy guy. Cheesehead 4209 says, how did she think she'd get away with that? Cheesehead, I think what happens is you get away with something once or twice, and at first you're like, I can't believe we got away with that. And after it happens a second and third time, you start to think, oh, nobody cares. We could do anything. We could even put this on Facebook. Nobody cares. And then you start to realize, oh my God, people care about this. I'm going to lose my career. I'm going to be in so much trouble. And I don't know about you. Nice people, we don't like the idea of going to jail or prison. That does not sound appealing to nice people, right? You don't want to live in a world where everybody is bullying you and beating you up for your lunch money. I mean, oh my God, we had to deal with that when we were kids. Who wants to deal with that as an adult? That sounds horrible. If she ends up going to prison, they're probably going to make her buy all their lunch and commissary. Oh, it's going to be horrible. Donnie Darko says, immature people trying to relive their glory days. Yes, I think that is what it is. Here's another thing it could be, Donnie Darko. What if when they were in high school, they didn't have any glory days? What if they weren't popular? What if they weren't cool? I could totally see somebody wanting to relive their glory days because now they know how to drink. Now they know how to be popular, right? Maybe their parents secluded them, some sort of religious household upbringing. And all of a sudden you got this situation where maybe you don't even believe in the Lord anymore. You're throwing your life away to Satan. Satan, 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 Satan. Give me the booze. Give me the underage dudes. Satan, Satan, Satan. By the way, it is kind of suspect, isn't it? That even though I told you there was absolutely no accusations of anything sexual, well, that's now at party number 3, 4, or 5. But that doesn't mean that that wouldn't change down the road. That's what's so horrible about alcohol. What's the first thing that people do when they get really blitzed and then they do something bad? They blame the alcohol. So anytime in the future, if anything bad would have happened, they would have just blamed it on the booze. At Finella says, these principals and teachers are teaching the wrong mess to children these days. Why do they go out of their way to grow up, get degrees, simply to want to hunger for the attention from children again? Crazy. That is kind of a full circle, right? They wanted to grow up, get the best grades they could. They probably would have said they had aspirations to be the best teacher and the best principal they could. And then pretty soon they realized, oh my God, we're surrounded by teenagers all the time and young kids. We live in a world where we don't even talk to adults on the daily. And pretty soon those people start to become enamored by youth. There's a lot of people that are attracted to youth. Now, I don't necessarily mean in a MAPS or pedo sort of way. There's just something cool about young people. They know the hot dances. They know the cool trends. And I could definitely see how somebody that's surrounded by this youth constantly could all of a sudden get jealous and want to do the bad things. In this case, craving attention from kids. There comes a point in your life, in your early 20s, whether you're a guy or girl, you just start to realize we are different than kids that are still in school, right? There's a lot of times where you're 25, 26, or 27, and you'll even find yourself saying, wow, these young kids nowadays are wild, even though you're only 7 or 8 years detached from those kids. As an adult, you have to make a deal with yourself that just says, hey, from this point forward, I'm not going to go play games with kids. It looks awful. I'm not going to have house parties with young people. It looks awful. There's penalties for this stuff. You think it's no big deal, but if it involves you going to jail, I consider that a big deal. Do you guys remember Al Bundy from Married with Children? Al Bundy was so cool because he didn't care what people thought. And those are the type of people that young people, they find appealing. They want to grow up and be like Al Bundy, be able to enjoy a beer in your own house, your own kingdom, right? And then there's other people that they're Al Bundy's age, but instead of watching as young people idolize them, they end up idolizing the kids. It's really weird. Something weird happened to this country over the last 25 or 30 years where I feel like kids have really taken a control over their parents. Now, this is not kids taking over their mom and dad, right? But this is still one of those things where it's like, for some reason, the principal and the third grade teacher thought it was cool to hang out with young people. Blows my mind. Bear 2164 says, this was actually my old elementary school. I also went to the high school right next to it. The teacher and principal only came in when I left, but my old teachers still work there. This is so crazy to me. It is crazy. I bet you over the next handful of days, there's going to be a lot of people that turn on the news, hear about this story, and then trip out because that was the school that they attended. Sometimes we have those moments where you turn on the TV and you realize, I know that person, I went to school with them. I know that school, that's where I attended. Oh my God, that school was in my own neighborhood. That mall that they're shutting down in the other state, I used to go there all the time with my buddies when I lived in that state. Sometimes we have these really surreal moments where all of a sudden the camera is turned on us or on something that was important in our histories. And for this guy to be tripping out because he knew people that attended the school, he attended the school, he knows who that principal and teacher are. He didn't go to school when they were there, but he went with people that are still teaching there. That is mind-blowing. Okay, so I'm sure one of you venters has a story about something that went down at your middle school or your high school or your elementary. Did you ever have something weird where maybe a student lost their life there or a teacher got attacked or something? If you have any weird school story that you can share, please do. So sometimes we're blessed because sometimes we went to a school where nothing happened and none of the teachers ever made the news. And that's actually the way we should all want to be, right? Nobody wants this to happen to their old school or whatever. I think this teacher is probably an anomaly. It doesn't happen all the time. I think it happens more and more now because there's cameras everywhere to record this stuff. If there were no such thing as a camera and nobody got this on film, I suppose for the rest of her life, this principal and this third grade teacher could deny it. I guess that's the thing that makes cameras so dangerous to bad people. Their acts could just get caught on camera. And if they do, in this day and age, those bad things never disappear. One thing I've noticed though with bad people, especially when it comes to those that have careers in schools, some way, somehow, you'll end up watching a video in the future where they make a colossal error of judgment. And then you'll end up finding out that stuff like this happened in their past, but for some reason they go to some school and somebody gives them another chance, and before you know it, they repeat the process of doing wrong. Let's keep track of this lady. Let's see if over the next 15 or 20 years she finds her way back into a school, because I think we can all agree her career should be over for this, you know? But either way, some people get second chances. I don't think this one deserves a second chance, but maybe you disagree. If so, let us know what your thoughts are. But other than that, here's my thought for you. Keep walking. Every time we walk, we're killing a bunch of calories. Let's do it. I'll see you tomorrow.